For the last 15 years, the young noble Airen Farreira has done nothing but sleep his depression away. That is, until one day, a recurring dream of a swordsman diligently practicing inspired him to get out of his depressive state with renewed vigor. Fueled by his dream, Airen takes up the blade and enrolls in one of the most prestigious schools to become a master swordsman and live up to the man in his dreams. It all started with the diary of an old man living in a rural village. One day, a stranger walked into the village, carrying with him a gigantic sword. It was hate at first sight for our narrator, but seeing this lone stranger, there was a certain determination burning in his eyes that even the narrator couldn't help but notice. He was hoping the elder their village would reject the hooded stranger, but he was accepted easily and welcomed warmly. Well, whatever the man thought. Now, it's been 4 days since their new neighbor arrived, yet he keeps mostly to himself, as quiet as a mouse. Is he even alive? Some of the nosy villagers tried to befriend the stranger, but they weren't successful. Not that he cared anyway. Then, just like that, a week already passed, then 10 days, and finally he now knows what the stranger does. Some of the village kids happened to see it and told him. The stranger practices with his sword every day. The narrator figured out on the get-go that the stranger must have some backstory, but who cares, right? Not his business to mind. Now, it's been a month since he first stayed here, and talks of the stranger diligently practicing his sword daily are still a popular topic in the village. Still, the narrator refuses to see the man practice with his sword. Then another month came and passed, and another. The people of the village continue to talk about this mysterious stranger, and by now, they have already formed various stories about why he continues to wield his sword. Some say he's a knight practicing for the day he could exact his revenge, while others claim that he's a famous mercenary. You know, the usual folktales. Our narrator still wasn't interested in all of this, but now he's got to see the man wielding the sword at this point. Right? Like, come on. The dude's been training consistently for the last 6 months. Nobody's that dedicated, or so he thought. So he's got to see this for himself. Is he a skilled swordsman? How fast is his technique? And is he strong? All kinds of questions popped into the man's head. So he decided that he'll see how this mysterious swordsman practices his craft tomorrow. Then came tomorrow. For all that hype, the swordsman's skills look pretty basic, at least according to our narrator. He has worked at a firm and has seen how swordsmen test their swords, and this man's skills are nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, sure, maybe he's got his reasons why he's practicing so damn hard, maybe a sob story, but that ain't enough to sharpen his skills. Whatever this swordsman's reasons may be, it's downright stupid and pitiful, according to our narrator. Now, he won't be affected by what the townsfolk say about this swordsman. After some time, a new family came into town that consisted of a mercenary, his son, and a daughter named Rema. Now, our narrator got pretty smitten with Rema, who he calls an angel and greets everybody with a smile. Our boy's already feeling breezy and plans to make a move on Rema the next day, and not relevant at all to the story, says the narrator, but their village has always been at the mercy of the sword for the 3rd year by now. Many years passed, and now the narrator continues to log into his diary after a long time. After courting Rema for 2 years, they got married, which he considers the happiest day of his life. But even if that is so, he can't help but feel that he's not in a relationship. By now, it's been 5 years since the stranger was welcomed into their village, and despite many people experiencing a lot of different things, the swordsman continues to swing his sword without fail every day. Is it really for practice, or is he torturing himself? Haunted by this thought, our narrator took it upon himself to check on the diligent swordsman daily. By now, it's been 5 years, 1 month, and 12 days since he trained with his sword, and you wanted to check up on him the next day, and the next, and the next. And in a blink of an eye, it's been 6 years, 2 months, and 18 days since he trained with his sword. Then it's 6 years, 9 months, and 3 days, of which the days, as of late, have been snowing for a while, but the swordsman's desire to practice is stronger. He's still at it. While he's busy swinging his sword, our narrator now welcomes his first child with Rema. Many of the townspeople celebrated this event, and yet the swordsman remains unfazed, choosing to continue to wield his sword instead. Damn, who made this guy his enemy? Through rain and snow, he continues to wield his sword, but what for? Then came a day when our narrator didn't check up on the village swordsman, but he's still probably swinging his sword, right? If there's one thing you could expect him to do, it's wield him the sword. Now, the narrator has grown old, his children having kids of their own. He's woken up one day by Yansseok, his grandson, as his daughter, Laura, informs him that they'll be visiting the village market. She invited him to come along with them, but he refused, choosing to walk around the village instead. Now, he's regarded as the village chief, revered by the people. And just like anything that time touches, the village has also changed, except for the lone swordsman. Stopping by the rugged gate of the swordsman's village, the president thought to himself, "It's been 37 years since this stranger stepped foot in her village." Just as he laid eyes on what was beyond the doors, his eyes widened in shock, and he came running towards the swordsman, who was kneeling on the ground, unmoving, with his sword still in his hand, long gray hair, and worn-out clothes. The swordsman died with his eyes wide open, yet his grip on the sword was firm as ever. Awestruck by this sight, a silver light emanating from the now-gone swordsman, he quickly laid his body to rest, closed his eyes, and said, "I hope you went to a good place." That's exactly when a blonde-haired, blue-eyed prince woke up in a sweat. What an inception is this? Enter the Farreira estate, famous for housing several nobles for training. It sits in the southern part of the High Kingdom. But what this region is most known for are the Farreira Baron's children, at least according to what the guard said. What's more, according to him, Lady Kirill is famous throughout the lands, and she received her official title despite being 11. Another guard asked, was she appointed by the royal family? The first one stressed, no, it was because she's a sorcerer, which is pretty rare and special, even rarer than high magicians. Then again, the third guard said, doesn't matter anyway because the firstborn is Lord Airen, which left the two guards speechless. So, what's his deal? And what's with that reaction? Well, turns out Airen is pretty infamous, and the rookie guard already knew about it. Duchess Kiel, commonly known as Princess Kirill, is known for her magical prowess, but her brother, Airen, is more well known throughout the land. He earned the nickname Lazy Lord because he could not do anything after the passing of his mother at a young age. From this tragic event, he refused to partake in any activities and just slept, staying cooped up in his room, which is where they got his moniker. Can't blame him, really. Lad watched his mother die right in front of him, after all. As the three guards continued their idle banter, their attention was caught by a voice from behind. It was none other than Princess Kirill Farreira and her mother, Amelia, the second wife. Princess Kirill, a blue-eyed blonde with her hair partially covering the right side of her face, stood glaring at the guards. As if her intimidating aura wasn't enough, she also questioned these guards. Who taught you to play hooky while still working? They were all quick to bow and ask for forgiveness. Now, that is quite the 90-degree bow they got there. But Princess Kirill was relentless. She continued to grill them about what they were sorry for, asking what they did wrong, until her mother intervened and saved these guards' butts. With a sly smile and a sideward glance, she asked them if they already knew what they did wrong. They easily agreed and bowed hastily again. Finally, mother and daughter seemed satisfied with their answers, so they walked away. As soon as they did, the guards released a sigh of relief. Mother-daughter combo, they thought. They couldn't help but wonder how different Lord Airen was from them. Meanwhile, inside the palace, grunting sounds could be heard, and they were coming from the lazy Lord Airen Farreira himself. He seemed to be having trouble trying to sleep, which was quite surprising since he was usually asleep by this time. The root cause of this was the recurring dream he had. He swore he could taste the tiredness in his mouth from swimming, even the muscle pain that came with it. But what was most shocking of all was that his body was full of energy, so full of energy that he couldn't stop shaking. He had to do something. With a shaking voice, he called out to someone, and his butler was quick to answer. At first, he was hesitant to say what he wanted, which left his butler feeling puzzled. But thankfully, the Lord managed to speak a few words, asking for a sword and wishing to swing it. The butler stood in silence, staring at him blankly. Did he just ask for a sword? Shocked at the request, his butler could only answer, yes, in a questioning manner. At the Farreira household's training hall, everyone was trying their best to focus on their own respective tasks, but they couldn't help but notice the elephant in the room. This is not a hallucination, right? All of them are seeing the same thing, right? The whispers grew louder as Airen Farreira, along with his butler, walked into the training hall. Is this the second coming, or what? The guards continued to whisper behind his back that it was difficult enough to see him as of late, but to make an appearance in the training hall was totally unheard of. They were just wondering if he was out here, trying to learn how to wield a sword, when he suddenly approached the weapons displayed on the wall, eyeing the weapon with the biggest blade. To this, his butler explained that there were various kinds of swords, even wooden ones, and that if he could wait for a bit, he was willing to bring someone who was quite knowledgeable about these weapons. However, Airen dismissed his suggestion and continued looking at the weapons in front of him. He did, in fact, choose the one with the biggest blade. By this time, the guards were pretty riled up, and one of them even asked his fellow guard to pinch him in the cheeks. If I'm dreaming or what? Nope, not a dream. However, a grunt left everyone distracted and the rest of the guards curious as they continued to eye Airen holding his sword in his hand. Even his butler was watching him closely as he shakingly gripped the heavy sword and got into position. With everything he had, he tried to swing the sword, but knowing his stamina and lack of knowledge about the weapon, it was flimsy at best. Many of Airen's spectators already expected that he'd be pretty bad at it, given his history. Everybody knows that he's lazy and sleeps all the time. But seeing him come out of his room for the first time in a long while was something worth seeing. But what, in tarnation, made him take up sword training? One of the palace's drudges chimed into the conversation. Another speculated, maybe it was because of Lord Jiren who made Airen get up on his feet. According to his neighbor, our novice swordsman was humiliated by Lord Jiren last month. Huh? So that's what happened. At least they all thought. Although many people saw this, not all were in the loop, since Airen was just sitting quietly at the time. Humiliation is a proven motivation, after all, so can't blame him. The question is, how long can he do this? As the palace's drudges went back to work, Airen continued to wield his sword, while his butler side-eyed the gossiping crowd. They even have the audacity to say that Airen will last only 3 days doing this, while another said he'd only last 30 minutes. His butler could only look at them in disdain, thinking to himself that everyone is not the same. He then changed his focus to Airen instead. He told the young noble that swordsmanship takes a lot of effort and it's not for everybody, adding that he'll put out a call tomorrow to start looking for someone to help him. But Airen was in the zone right now. With the sword in his hands, he could feel the pain all over, especially in his arms. Even he starts questioning himself on why he does this, as he continues to swing the sword, wielding it with such force despite having a frail body. He ends up being out of breath and lies on the ground, panting. But why does he feel at ease? Does this dude happen to be a masochist of some sort? The more he continues to copy what the swordsman in his dream does, the more his heart's burdens lighten up, and with every swing of the sword, all the bad memories and confusing thoughts disappear from his mind. He can't stop this addicting feeling. The only thing that snapped him out of this reverie was his butler, who had to physically stop him from swinging the sword, since it was already sundown. What, already? Still a bit high from the feeling, Airen is confused why he was stopped, until he collapsed in his butler's arms, his body giving out from exhaustion. With his vision finally focusing on the surroundings, he finally noticed that it was indeed sundown, while his butler worried over him. But how did the day go by so fast? As he clings to his butler, he asks him why he didn't leave. His butler knew better than to leave him alone. He waited for him patiently and even called out to him many times, but to no avail. But finally, Airen is ready to rest, so he assures him that what he did was good training, but it's best not to overexert himself, which he agrees not to do again. Back in his room, Airen complains about the pain in his body, thinking, I couldn't do something like this. It's all the dream's fault. How exactly can he sleep with all this pain and heaviness? And just like that, 5 minutes later, he was out like a light. A few days later, a shocking scene continues to haunt the palace walls. This time, in the dining hall, Airen gobbles his sandwich with so much gusto that even his butler still can't believe the prince is up on his feet and out of his room. Still shocked, he asks Airen if he will train today as well, which the latter confirms, thinking to himself. Airen wonders about how he's haunted by the recurring dream of the swordsman, and how, if he continues to practice, the pain is relieved. So, he thought, I took it upon myself to wield the sword. He did, however, have a moment's thought that he may be losing his mind. But whatever, it's worth a try, and to continue wielding it, I need to eat up and have more energy. As soon as he thought of this, he ordered more sandwiches and milk. Finally, that's the main character's energy we're looking for. Back in the training hall, the guards are once again speculating if this will be the day. Many of them even place bets, adding the new guard into the loop on what he thinks will happen today, until a long, hooded figure approached them from behind. It turns out to be an old man, leaning on his walking stick, asking where the palace training grounds are located. You just know, whenever someone like this pops out, our hero is about to be schooled real good. The guards question him on the location he wants to go, but he reassures them that he's but a wandering traveler and a former swordsman who just wants to watch from the sidelines. To approve his identity, he even says that he has a proper license, but the guards didn't ask for it anymore, and led him to the training ground with ease. So off they go to the palace's training grounds, the guards already thinking about the bet. And as they reach the area, the older one exclaimed in shock, seeing none other than the once lazy Prince Airen training hard with the sword. It's already the 4th day since he started this whole gig, much to the younger guard's happiness. Turns out this guard actually bet that Airen would still be up and running by this time. Good call. And yep, his sword practices became a betting game for a lot of the guards by now. As the younger guard collected his payment, he also said that Airen may still be at it for a while longer, since Jiren's son, Lord Jiren, got him real good last month. Humiliation is a good motivation, remember. As they continue to banter, the Gandalf-looking character only looks on and watches Airen in silence. He's been assessing his form, which isn't too bad considering he started days ago, and he thinks he's not wasting time by doing so. But he's got to admit, though, Airen's swordsmanship is pretty lousy, not to mention the fact that, at his current strength, he can't handle the weight of the sword at all. Plus, he's already out of breath, indicative of his poor stamina and how badly he's pacing himself. How long will he continue at this rate? The old man wonders if Lord Jiren really is the cause behind the young noble's abrupt training. This kind of horsing around with a sword isn't good, and how much mana will he use? All these thoughts ran into the old man's head. But his reverie is broken after a strong gust of wind blew into the palace grounds, and one of the guards exclaims in shock as a griffin, one of the legendary animals, flew above them, ridden by none other than Princess Kirill herself, wearing a long scowl on her face. She flew down in front of the guards, who are now shaking in fear at the princess' talent. How she can move her creations at will, and her ability to give life to them as if they were really alive. That's Princess Kirill for you. But now they have a new fear. The princess continues to glare at the guards and even calls each of them out, even the old man himself. But she was quick to dismiss him and only paid attention to the guards who were slacking off during work times. How many times does she have to tell them not to play hooky during work? One of them was quick to reason out that he had just finished his shift. As the old man listened on, reduced to a poorly drawn side character in the panel, the man wasn't even colored. Sweating, the older guard explained that he was on the afternoon shift and that he didn't do anything wrong. But Princess Kirill only scrutinized him all the more, even telling him that maybe he was just vomiting words at the spur of the moment. She even knows that this guard doesn't even work in the training grounds and that he's just pretty nosy about what's happening lately. She would have continued grilling him if Airen didn't step up and call her attention, wondering why she was acting such. She was quiet for a moment and looked at the guards, then told her brother to stop doing whatever it is that he's doing. Airen was left confused, but the princess only told him to just stop it. To this, Airen turned his back and just continued practicing with the sword again. Seeing this, Kirill got aggravated, shouting at him that swordsmanship is no easy task, especially for someone like him who's been sleeping it out for the last few years. Did he actually think he'll be able to pull it off? Kirill questions him. Airen remains silent, but she continues by even comparing his skills to the rookie guards, telling Airen that they're even better than he is. She would have continued her tirade if her mother, Queen Amelia, hadn't come waltzing down the stairs. With a smile, much to the guard's shock, she told the princess not to bother her brother and requested that she come with her. Kirill was about to argue, but thankfully, the queen was the only one who could call the princess out like that. Amelia then praised the guards for their hard work and told Airen not to overwork himself with practice. With that, the two of them walked away, which left the guards breathing a collective sigh of relief. But let's not forget the griffins were still present. The creature gave a loud squawk that made them jump in their armor as they shouted in frustration about why the princess didn't bring her creation with her. The old man, meanwhile, was smiling to himself, thinking about the famous princess and how it seemed like a storm had passed by the scene. Anyway, he was quick to shift his focus back to Airen and, with a sharp eye, assessed that, even with all the fiasco, the young noble only continued to practice with the sword, not even bothered by the things going on around him. With this in mind, the old man thought that he would continue to observe Airen for a few more days. Then, suddenly, it's nighttime, and in the palace hallways, one can hear quiet footsteps. The owner of these footsteps is none other than the princess, who's trying to sneak in. If not for Airen's butler, who appeared from behind her, telling Kirill that the young master was already sleeping. Startled at his appearance, Kirill answered with a pout that she had something to say to him. But his butler said that it would be better to visit him later and wait until he woke up. The princess was quiet for a moment, then turned to face his butler, admitting her power, and a strong gust of wind encircled her while asking if the butler dared to talk back to her. And this, my friends, is a literal power-tripping scene. Airen's butler, shocked at her actions, was surprised and, at the same time, scared of the princess' menacing aura. But thankfully, Kirill was quick to dissipate it and told him not to tell anyone of what happened just now. By now, Airen's butler was on his knees and only looked on as she walked away. Come morning, a red cat, dressed in a suit, complete with a bowler hat, was playing the flute by Airen's bedside table. The young noble woke up from his sleep and was surprised to see this latest addition to his room. Noticing a letter placed at the foot of the cat, he opened it and read that it came from her sister. In it, she apologized for what she said back in the training grounds. After she heard that he was overworking himself, she was only worried for him and told him that she left him a doll with relaxation properties, hoping it would help with Airen's recovery. Well, isn't she lovable? To this, the prince looked at the cat, who gave a small bow. In the letter, the princess also told him not to tell their mother that she stopped by, since Queen Amelia already told her not to. After reading this, Airen flipped the letter over. There's more, he thought. This time, it was in the queen's writing on the back of the letter. Airen, if your sister bothers you too much, tell me. And we should keep this a secret from Kirill. Wow, not an evil stepmother. That's new. With a smile, Airen thought to himself that both his mother and sister cared about him so much while petting the cat, even if he had done nothing but sleep for the past decade. As if on cue, a knock came on his door. Breakfast is ready, Your Highness, his butler announced. Thinking of breakfast, Airen was struck with an idea. He decided to join his family for breakfast. With quick strides, the butler hurried off, smiling. He thought that the prince had changed, and for the better. It's not every day that the whole royal family comes together for meals, especially with Airen present. Kirill kept putting one parcel of food after another on his plate as their parents looked on, smiling. As the queen was about to tell Kirill to take it easy, Airen spoke, thanking both his parents and Kirill, even if the only thing he did in the past was sleep like a fool. I couldn't bring myself to say it back then, but now I can say that I'm sorry and that I love all of you very much. Even his father echoed the sentiment of love. As Airen said, he was sorry for causing concern. But fortunately for him, his father was quick to dismiss that. Since Airen had already begun the conversation over the meal, his father also brought up the topic of him practicing his swordsmanship skills. Like his mother, he also reminded Airen that he shouldn't overwork himself, applauding his son for his efforts despite starting late on the craft. Now, don't we all wish we had the support of parents like them? Airen replied to his father, telling him that he wasn't overworking himself and that there was no need to worry about him at all. Thinking about the recurring dream he had, Airen thought to himself that this kind of strain was nothing compared to that. So now, back at the training grounds, the guards were still wondering how Airen was still at it. It had been 2 weeks since he started with the sword, and what's even more impressive is that he never missed a day of training. Did this once lazy prince really change for the better? One guard asked. The other claimed that might not be so, and that the prince would probably tire of this soon, though it didn't seem like he was about to give out anytime soon. After having this conversation, one of them couldn't help but notice the hooded old man sitting by the corner. One of the guards assured the other, the old man's just here to observe. He even has the higher-ups' approval, so we don't need to bother him. Now, let's turn our attention to the old man. His eyes were closed, and he was deep in thought. It's been 10 days since I started observing Airen's training, he mused. Like many others, at first, I thought the young noble's motivation was fueled by pride and a sense of inferiority. Surely that isn't enough to fuel such diligence. But how wrong he was. Having spent a lot of time at the training grounds, the old man was also aware of Airen's nickname, the Lazy Lord. Yet from what he was seeing, the young prince was far from it. First of all, he thought, for someone with no formal sword training, how could he continue such rigorous training without showing any signs of irritation? Was he enlightened by Buddha or something? The old man couldn't help but compare Airen's training to a blacksmith hammering steel day after day. It was as if he'd been doing this for decades without faltering. The old man couldn't even remember anyone from the past with such a steadfast work ethic. But wait, he thought, it takes a long time to develop such work ethics and willpower, even decades. And yet, I'm seeing it in a 15-year-old Airen. If this continues, he could discover his true potential. And with the right mentor, he could become one of the greatest swordsmen to this day. Putting all his weight on the sword, Airen continued to practice his swing, as many of the palace guards, as well as the hooded old man, watched on. The old man called out to the arena's keeper, asking, "Does Airen have any history of a private swordsmanship tutor?" The arena keeper responded, "Baron Airen's father is setting up a tutor for him. Seeing all his efforts, it'd be a shame to waste it all if he wasn't guided accordingly." Curious, the old man asked, "Who might the tutor be?" The arena keeper answered, "From what I remember, it would be Sir Orlan Jukrin." "No." The arena keeper was shocked to see the old man so close, with a grave look on his face. To be fair, he had grave reason for concern. According to the old man, this supposed teacher of Airen's was a notorious drunk who has a habit of drinking before giving formal training, and because of this, does nothing but yell at the soldiers and novices. That drunkard is no good as a teacher for a budding swordsman like Airen. The old man quickly turned around and, with a determined stride, thought to himself, "I need to act fast. A precious gem like Airen shouldn't fall into the hands of a negligent tutor like him." He hurriedly went off to see Airen's father, and in no time at all, reached his office. Back in his father's office, Baron Airen was kind enough to hear what the old man had to say and was bewildered by what he heard. He asked, "Is all of this true?" The old man grimly confirmed it was. About Airen, who actually has the potential to be an expert swordsman. Who would have thought? Byron was shocked, pleased, and worried all at once. After all, the old man had already presented him with a letter of recommendation for Airen to attend the Kronos Swordsmanship Academy, the swordsmanship academy for the elite of the land. Only the most exceptional talents can get into this prestigious academy, and it doesn't matter if you're from royalty or not. If you ever do get accepted into Kronos, you'll be treated much better than most nobles. That's how elite this school is. Its reputation is even greater than that of the Royal Academy. Sure, it's one thing to get accepted into the school, but it's an entirely different matter to become a trainee there. Could Airen, who just started his swordsmanship training a few weeks ago, manage to hold out? This was the thought that bothered Byron the most. I mean, just look at Airen. He isn't even at the naive level yet. Still, Byron decided to call his son to the office to inform Airen that he had received a recommendation letter to attend Kronos Swordsmanship Academy. Obviously, Airen was shocked to even be considered for such a top-notch school. But, like every good father, Byron didn't force him to make a decision right then and there, but only expressed his support for whatever Airen may choose and that it's his call to make. Back to Airen, naturally, he was dumbfounded by this news and just told his father that he'd think it through for the next couple of days. Later, in his room, Airen sat contemplating in the comfort of his luxurious bed about what had transpired a while ago. His main thought was on whether or not he had the capacity to do this. Could he? Well, our boy hasn't been the most active in the last 10 years, only sleeping until God knows when. And now, an opportunity to attend this swordsmanship academy. But then again, if he didn't have the potential, this opportunity wouldn't have come, right? Gripping his bed sheets firmly, he decided that he didn't want to spend the rest of his days lying down in despair anymore. He came to this decision not just for himself, but for his loving family too. Ada boy Airen. And just like that, Airen went directly to Byron's office, announcing with firm determination that he'd like to accept his hand in the Kronos Swordsmanship Academy. Next thing we know, Airen is already saying goodbye to his family from the entrance of the palace grounds, with murmurs surrounding the prince's abrupt decision. With tears in her mother's eyes, she bade him farewell, while his father looked on fondly, and Kirill wished him safe travels. On the road, only his butler and Airen were in the carriage, with the former asking Airen if it was the first time he was leaving the family estate. Thinking about it, Airen said that it was, indeed, the first time he had left the family estate. While he was busy looking outside, his butler pulled something from his belongings and told Airen that Kirill wanted him to have something of hers, a necklace with a pendant fashioned into a small sword, leaving Airen's eyes wide in shock. Smiling to himself, he took the necklace and thanked his sister silently. It didn't take long for the two to reach the entrance of Kronos Swordsmanship Academy, and Airen was struck by the towering facade that was filled with aspiring students to his left and right. His butler was about to escort him to the entrance, but he declined, leaving the former stunned. Airen then told him that from now on, he was just a mere trainee and that he had to get used to being on his own. Hearing all this, his butler couldn't help but be proud of the young master. With one last look, Airen told him to take care and proceeded to go inside. His butler bowed humbly and wished him well, while Airen continued walking with a nervous stride. It was like the first day of school. Of course, it was nerve-wracking and exciting. As he neared the entrance to the academy, Airen saw that there was another boy before him, escorted by two older guards. The boy, a blue-haired talent wearing a smirk, was introduced by one of the guards as Lord Brett Lloyd, the son of Count Lloyd, who is one of the most esteemed families in the Gavera Kingdom. What's more, Brett was also recommended to the academy by Sir ʟᴏᴅᴅ, one of the palace guards. He welcomed the young noble, saying how honored he was to welcome such a figure. Just then, the other guard, one with a vertical scar on his left eye, sporting red hair and streaks of white on it, noticed Airen approaching. As he did so, Airen was quick to introduce himself as the son of Airen Farreira, and, along with it, he presented the recommendation letter from the Wandering Knight, Sir Bran Somerville. Well, what do you know? Turns out the old man's a legit knight, after all. Like what they did to Brett, the first knight also welcomed Airen with open arms and told him that they were also aware of who Sir Bran Somerville is. He's a knight on active duty and is the one behind subduing many of the creatures for decades now. Additionally, this knight also told Airen that if his recommendation came from Sir Bran, then there's no doubt that he'd pass easily. After that, he was quick to direct Airen to the auditorium, also wishing him luck, with our young hero walking away and thanking him for the encouragement. As soon as Airen was out of earshot, the red-haired guard said aloud, "I didn't expect Sir Bran to be the type to write letters of recommendation for anyone." His fellow guard agreed, most especially not for the lazy prince. To this, the red-haired guard asked, "Who's the lazy prince?" The other was quick to explain about the lazy young lord of the Farreira family. Airen's reputation sure preceded him, so Piers hoped his reputation would improve from here on out. Hearing all this, the red-haired guard couldn't help but agree, seeing how Airen's physique is subpar, making him look weaker in person. So, what exactly did the old man see in him? By now, Airen had reached the door to the auditorium and, with a gulp, pushed the wooden door open. In doing so, he was met with many glares and judging looks, including the blue-haired boy from before, as well as a girl with short, bright red hair. Another girl, with long, silver locks tied into a pony, only gave him so much as a side glance. But Airen had no time to think, since he was distracted by the figure approaching the podium. It was none other than the red-haired guard from before. As soon as he reached the podium, he was quick to announce, "There are 400 preliminary trainees present here," and introduced himself as Ahmed, who from today onwards would serve as their instructor, teaching and evaluating their progress. From his position, Ahmed gave a quick scan of the crowd and noted to himself that there were several promising candidates for this year, including the blue-haired boy, the silver-haired girl, as well as the girl with bright hair. But, out of all these candidates, the one that stood out the most was the silver-haired girl, Ilya Lindsay, from the genius family of Lindsay. It's been told that she's the second genius from their clan, which made Ahmed wonder just how talented she is. Hearing how she's more gifted than her older brother, prospective wife detected, but Ahmed wasn't the only one looking at Ilya. Brett was also glaring at her from a distance, wondering why she had to attend the academy, since she was already talented enough as she is. With her present, Brett thought to himself that acquiring the top position is no longer an easy win for him. "Watch out, we got a pretty ambitious lad right here." Ahmed continued with his speech, telling everyone that they were all preliminary trainees and not official ones yet. What's more, he reminded them how challenging this swordsmanship training is at the academy, and that if they managed to pass the 2 upcoming exams and hold out for a year, only then would they be considered official trainees. But then again, once they become official, training will only get harder. After saying this, Ahmed made them leave their belongings and follow him outside, saying there was a place he wanted them to see. Once outside, they gathered on an oval track. Ahmed, now free from his suit of armor, explained that it was the location for physical training sessions to improve cardio and muscular endurance. "It's relatively flat," he said, "though there are a few slopes that will serve as our running course." Without warning, Ahmed dashed forward, signaling the start of their endurance test. He quickened his pace, zooming past the front line of trainees, pushing even faster still. He was already several paces ahead, while the rest of the trainees scrambled to catch up. Many were already panting hard, including Airen and a few others. Brett, running from the back, thought to himself, "I need to maintain my pace since this is a long-distance run." He glanced back and saw the lazy prince already lagging far behind, on his knees and sweating buckets. Airen wouldn't get that nickname for nothing, Brett mused. Meanwhile, Airen was deep in thought, focused on how difficult the first task was, huffing extra hard. The rest of the trainees ran further away from him. On the opposite side of the track, Ahmed quickly noticed Airen had stopped, but he didn't comment. He continued to run. As they ran, Airen started to get up, his whole body trembling. Still panting, he took another step forward and continued to run. Seeing this, Brett was beyond shocked, while Ahmed only smirked at the young noble's determination. Airen thought to himself, "This hardship is nothing compared to what the swordsman in my dream went through." He wanted to be like him, to be on the same level as the swordsman in his dream. To do that, Airen told himself, "I need to overcome my past self, which is the lazy lord." On the side, one of the guards who welcomed Airen, the one with the moss-colored hair, was also watching the endurance test. Like Ahmed, he was rid of his armor and observing Airen, surprised that the young hero pushed through despite being on his knees and out of breath. "That's our main character for you," he thought. However, this guard was suddenly alarmed at Airen's condition. He was already coughing unnaturally and was close to losing consciousness. Meanwhile, Ahmed and the rest of the trainees were catching up behind Airen as he stumbled, startling the approaching bunch. Fortunately, the other guard made a run for it and quickly caught Airen as he was about to be run over by the rest of the batch. Taking a closer look at Airen, the guard thought to himself, Airen didn't just faint, he pushed his body way past its limits, which resulted in him losing consciousness. Damn, that's next-level effort. Still, this guard couldn't help but wonder at this curious kid as he lay panting, with his eyes closed shut. Airen woke with a start, quickly getting out of bed and scanning the room. "Where am I?" he wondered. "You're just fine," a voice said from his left. "I'm the instructor of Rune Tarhal and in charge of the recovery room." Airen quickly thanked him. The instructor replied, "You're darn right you should be grateful. I just made you recover faster." He smiled, adding, "Maybe we'll be seeing each other more frequently." Airen didn't catch the joke. The instructor handed him a scroll. "This is the ranking of the test," he explained, "but it isn't part of the finals or midterm exams that will dictate if you make it as official trainees or not. The endurance test was just a quick look to see the candidates' current levels." Unsurprisingly, Airen saw himself ranked 400th. The instructor tried to console him. Ranking high on the list boosts one's esteem, while those ranked lower are motivated to work even harder. "Plus, this ranking is bound to change in a year," he said. The instructor was surprised by how calm Airen was. He didn't seem fazed at all by being last. Seeing that Airen seemed okay, the instructor quickly ushered him out of the recovery room and out of his way. The next day, the trainees were already seated in the lecture hall. A moss-haired guard greeted them from the podium with a smile. "Good morning. I'm pleased to know that most of the preliminary students slept fairly well. I'm Karaka, and I will serve as your instructor for today." Karaka quickly presented a new schedule. From 6 to 8 o'clock, you will wake up and have breakfast, quickly followed by a morning training session until noon. From there, you are given an hour's break, and we start afternoon training at 1300 hours until 1700 hours, followed by a 1-hour dinner until 1800 hours. After dinner, you will have a 1-hour mental training and liberal art class. After you finish the schedule, you're free to do as you please. He added, "Starting today, all training halls, fitness rooms, and other training facilities will be open for your use, especially for those who wish to train more anytime." Hearing this, Airen thought to himself that he could resume his swordsmanship training, but his thoughts were cut short. "Weapon training is not allowed," Karaka stated. "A swordsmanship academy that doesn't allow sword training? Come on now." The day flew by, and dust was already settling on the palace grounds. Brett walked, accompanied by his for other trainees. As they walked, one of them asked, "Do you think the liberal arts class is boring, Brett? I mean, the academy is a bit much, making us take another class after a whole day's worth of training." Brett simply smiled. Another trainee countered, "The first training was hard for you because you didn't understand the lesson." Soon, they reached the door to one of the training facilities. Inside, they were shocked to see that the area was much bigger than they had imagined, already full of other trainees busy with weight training. As they walked around, one of them commented, "Wow, everybody's working hard." Another said, "It's only a matter of time before they drop, one by one." However, Brett's attention was drawn to Ilya, who was busy lifting weights that looked a little too heavy for any girl out there. But then again, she was a genius prodigy, after all. While Ilya was busy squatting the heavy barbells, Brett could only look on and gulp in fear after seeing her in action, admitting that her presence overwhelmed him. Brett's train of thought continued to spiral. "Ilya is in no way on the same level as us," he thought, "making me feel inferior, not jealous at all. It's like there's a whole gap of stairs between us, a different level from the others." Even Brett's clique was surprised at her ability to lift such weights with that body. But then, another trainee gasped in shock. Look, the lazy lord is also busy doing weightlifting, but on a much lighter scale. The two trainees continued to make fun of Airen, saying how he wasted his life sleeping instead of training back then. But our hero paid them no mind. They continued to taunt him, saying how he would faint again when Ilya noticed Airen's attempts. Cut out, Brett told the other two trainees. We're leaving. This time, Brett noticed the short-haired girl with bright red hair also busy doing hammer curls by the bench. Brett knew that this girl's name was Judith, and that she was the only commoner among the nobles. How could I not know her? He thought. She's the one who beat me for second place, and this blue-haired boy doesn't let things like that go. He shot daggers in Judith's direction in his thoughts, promising to never let her get second place again, admitting a menacing aura. Suddenly, Judith called him out on his BS. The aggravated girl demanded, "Stop staring. You're making me lose focus." Brett was taken by surprise. Is this commoner talking to me? Judith was not one to back down. Yeah, I'm definitely talking to you. Beat it. Of course, Brett's small fry henchmen are quick to jump to his side, calling Judith out for her brashness and for not paying respect to Brett. But this red-haired girl only asked them, "Is it cute just following Brett around?" One of them got pretty heated and demanded Judith apologize to him immediately. But she just kept adding fuel to the fire, even telling him that his mouth stinks. Just as he was about to retaliate, Judith told him to shut up while focusing on one corner of the training area. Even Brett got curious and also turned to look. What they all saw shocked them to the core. Ilya approached Airen, pulling him aside for a quick talk. Even Airen himself got pretty shocked, the bar still in hand. From their area, no one could actually hear the conversation between the two, with them whispering and Ilya pointing something out to our hero. The whole training hall was silent. You could actually hear the tumblers rolling. Airen and Ilya's conversation soon ended, with her walking away while Airen bowed to her shyly. As soon as she slammed the door shut of the training hall, Airen now has a new concern, various eyes staring at him. But when he looked back, all of them averted their gaze and continued working out. This scene looked like it came straight out of classic slapstick comedy. Judith and Brett were both thinking the same thing. They couldn't hear what the two said. So Judith, impulsive as she is, got up and dropped the dumbbell on one of Brett's henchmen and walked straight toward Airen. "Hey," she called him out. But Airen, shocked for the second time today, was too stunned. Judith, as impatient as ever, told him that he should respond when someone talks to him. So Airen was quick to get up and talk. However, Judith straight up told him that she was not interested in him, and that he should tell her right now. Airen is still dumbfounded. Well, turns out Judith wants to know what Ilya Linde had to say to him. So, what exactly did the top students say to the one who ranked last? Shocked, Judith was annoyed and glaring at Airen. Did Ilya Linde really just walk over to Airen just to tell him how to use the equipment properly and to correct his posture? Who would believe that? But Airen swore that he was telling the truth. So, Judith had to ask if the two of them knew each other from before, or if they were lovers. But Airen said that this is the first time he'd even seen her today. Judith seemed satisfied with Airen's boring answer, so she turned to go. But before she stomped away, she told him to loosen up, since the other trainees might think she's bullying him. Airen just thought to himself how brash Judith was. As he was about to resume his training, remembering Ilya's advice, he got cut off again, and this time by Brett. Like Judith, he was quick to ask what Ilya had said to him earlier and what he and Judith had discussed afterward. A month passed. As usual, Brett stood, drinking his water, surrounded by his henchmen, though only 3 remained. They were at the training halls, and, just a few feet away, Airen was practicing his weightlifting, while Ilya watched over him, correcting his form and coaching him as Airen struggled with the squat. Brett turned to himself, saying he wouldn't concern himself over those two. Admittedly, he also thought he'd never win against Ilya, and that she was, without a doubt, the top trainee this year. But for Airen, there wasn't much to fear. He was still the lowest-ranked trainee of them all. If anything, Brett was convinced Airen bribed his way into the academy. He thought that Airen, who had done nothing but be lazy his whole life, could never reach Brett's level, even with Ilya's coaching and encouragement. Brett truly believed that sooner or later, Airen would revert to being the lazy prince he once was. Brett then told his pack they'd head out to the track, thinking he'd settle for second place. But as he approached, he was annoyed to see Judith had beaten him to it and was already running hard. One of his henchmen couldn't help but praise Judith's intensity and how she always got to the track first. The other only commented that it was only natural she worked this hard. She was a commoner. After all, Brett was already pissed and told them they'd start running anyway. They were shocked to hear this, but with a glare, Brett told them they could follow slowly if they found it too hard. Otherwise, he told them, with a menacing aura, they should run after him as if their lives depended on it. This kid sure needs to bump his pep talk, Brett muttered. 3 months later, Ahmed and Karaka dropped by the training halls, noticing only a few trainees remained. Many hadn't withstood the harsh training at the academy. But Karaka said with a smile that compared to last year, there were a lot more of them this time. The big three, Judith, Brett, and Ilya, were still going at their own pace, with Judith doing weightlifting, Brett running track, and Ilya with her own exercises. And then there was the lazy, nope, not anymore. We can't call Airen lazy anymore, can we? Not after all the hard work he's put in. The next day, they were all gathered in the lecture hall when Ahmed made a big announcement. It's time for your midterm evaluations. Many were surprised. Ahmed continued, explaining that for this evaluation, they would undergo a certain course. To pass, they simply needed to complete the course within a certain time frame. Seeing the track, many were already airing their frustration and dread at the difficulty of the course. Even Judith herself frowned. However, Ahmed continued, the course is nothing out of the ordinary. It's a combination of what we've been doing for the past 3 months, which includes running and swimming. The actual course will serve as the evaluation, and as long as you finish it within the time limit, you're all good. Plus, the good part is that rankings don't matter in this evaluation. And here's the fun part, Ahmed added. The academy head will be giving out a reward, just a morale boost, no biggie. The midterm evaluations will commence 10 days from now, exactly at 9 in the morning. To give focus to the evaluations, there are no classes, and the trainees are free to do as they please. He wished them the best of luck. As usual, Brett's henchmen were quick to question their Deer Pack leader if they could finish the evaluations. One of them even exclaimed, duh, of course Brett can do this. He is Lord Brett Lloyd, after all. But while they were bickering, Brett was deep in thought, contemplating Ilya and Judith, while also considering a few others. Still, he was confident that he'd get into the top 5 spot, and there weren't any risks for this. However, he couldn't help this uneasy feeling as he glared toward Airen, who was busy running track. It was a different day, and most of the trainees were busy doing their own thing. Judith was focusing on breaking a new PR and weightlifting. She was happy with what she had accomplished and was about to call it a day when she heard retching sounds from the corner. Looking toward the source, she saw that it came from Airen, who was on his knees, panting and out of breath. Judith thought to herself, Airen is pushing himself beyond his limit once again. It made her think about when he first stepped foot in the academy. Compared to back then, she thought of how Airen had improved tremendously and asked herself how he was able to accomplish such a feat, clenching her fist tightly. Judith couldn't help but compare if her willpower was lesser than that of the lazy lord. So, she did what she had to do. She resumed training. She wasn't having it. Days flew by so fast that suddenly it was only a day before the midterm evaluations. Karaka wondered out loud how many trainees would be able to pass the course, and Ahmed estimated that there would probably be 30 of them. Hearing this, the head sword master popped out from between the 2 instructors, which surprised Ahmed. What are you doing here? Ahmed asked. The head sword master of Kronos Academy, Ian, a bald man with a white mid-length mustache and beard, told the 2 instructors that he fancied seeing how the trainees of this year fared rather than hearing it from somebody else. After that, he quickly greeted Karaka, who he knew as the new assistant instructor from the kingdom of Adon. As they shook hands, the headmaster inquired, Karaka, how old do you think I am? The younger instructor, clearly flustered, answered 55. This seemed to flatter the old man, as he broke into a smile, saying, I hate outright flattery. At the same time, I will double your wage. Karaka only smiled and thanked him, but in reality, Ian was actually 90 years old. Ahmed whispered from the side, Don't believe what the head sword master says. He doesn't handle the finances. Turning back to the trainee exercises, even the headmaster himself had noticed this year's batch of trainees is quite different from last year's. Is this the result of Ahmed and Karaka's combined teachings? Karaka demurred. You're giving me way too much credit. Suddenly, Ian's attention was drawn to a particular training exercise. Karaka, noticing his line of sight, explained, That's Ilya, the second genius of the Lindsay family, busy doing lifts. She's the top student among the trainees and a prodigy who lives up to her reputation. That may be true, the headmaster said, not taking his eyes off Ilya. But I see something different in her. She's so obsessed with the path chosen for her, instead of pursuing what she truly wants. Ahmed looked surprised. But there's more, the headmaster continued. I hope she can get rid of this useless obsession one day and question how society pushed her to become as such. His gaze shifted to Judith, who was doing barbell squats. Judith is overworking herself, he observed. He turned to the instructors. Have you warned her about overexerting herself? Karaka confirmed that they had. Judith is the most hard-headed out of all the trainees in this batch. You should still warn her, the headmaster replied, starting to walk towards Judith. It would be a waste if she gets burned out. Another reason why I wanted to approach her is to find out the reason why she works so hard. With a few strides, the headmaster was in front of Judith, but their conversation was inaudible to the others. Karaka wondered aloud. I wonder if he can stop Judith from overworking? Ahmed quickly replied. Surely, she'll listen to the headmaster's warning. But as soon as the headmaster turned his back and walked away, Judith resumed her workout. Damn, this girl really doesn't listen, Ahmed muttered. Ahmed was about to question the headmaster when the latter preempted him. Judith is indeed stubborn, he said, and will only stop exerting herself if I give her a good reason to do so. The headmaster quickly changed the topic. Where is Airen? He emitted a quick glance across the halls. Only the sounds of the various pieces of workout equipment could be heard, with Karaka and Ahmed standing silently side by side. How long has it been? Ahmed asked. 30 minutes, Karaka answered. The headmaster observed Airen, who was busy doing barbell squats, and without saying anything, the old man quickly turned away. Don't bother Airen, he instructed the two. They clarified the headmaster's wishes, of which Ian told them not to stop him unless Airen himself chose to give up. He was quick to assess that Airen had complete control of his body. When night came, Airen plopped down on his bed, sinking into the muscle patches he'd placed there to help relieve the pain from his workouts. While lying there, he contemplated the things that had happened in the past few days, such as his fellow trainees who had mocked and ignored him, namely Judith and Brett, who were now starting to become more conscious of him, which was such a weird feeling. Then there was the top trainee, Ilya, who was lending a hand to Airen's workouts. Why was she doing that? She wasn't the type to just reach out and help other people out of pity. As soon as he closed his eyes, Airen fell into a deep sleep. Airen woke up with a different aura. He seemed to be generating a different kind of energy that was full of intent and determination. What would Airen do next? Airen walked into the course on the day of the evaluation, looking more beaten up than usual, which earned him a few whispers behind his back. Some even thought that maybe he overdid himself this time, even one of Brett's henchmen. Brett only stared at Airen in silence, then shifted his gaze to another trainee who looked a little worse for wear. Judith, judging from her looks, had once again overworked herself and was in the worst condition she'd ever been in. Seeing this, Brett smirked, thinking the second place was as good as his right now, as long as he didn't let his guard down. Ilya also threw a glance at Airen, who had been pretty quiet the whole time, but everyone's attention was now focused on Ahmed. With only 5 minutes before the midterm evaluations, Ahmed went over the rules one last time, explaining that it had 4 stages with different instructors set for each course. Once they finished the target point, they were free to proceed with the next location and challenge. He also stressed that this exam was based on an absolute grading scale. Everybody should focus on their own progress and show the instructors how much they've improved. The trainees already got into position at the first location, with everyone feeling the intensity of the activity. But the first challenge the trainees were made to do was push press, and contrary to what Ahmed said, Brett was being nosy about others' business once again and was looking at how fast Ilya performed the challenge. Looking at her while finishing his own, Brett thought, I'll never be as fast as her. Then, he considered that he still had a run for second place. Brett and his boys were still struggling hard to finish the first task when one of his henchmen noticed something strange. This made Brett look as well, and boy, was he not pleased with what he saw. Airen was doing the fastest push presses out there, with a beaten-down body. How does he do it? Even Karaka, who was overseeing the location, was surprised at his intensity. But Airen was purely focused and didn't slow down or take a break at all. Seeing this, Brett was shocked, thinking that Airen wasn't pacing himself well for the challenge. Did you want to burn out that fast? As he was busy looking at Airen, Ilya already finished her set, leaving him surprised as usual. But he was even more surprised when the instructor called out Airen's name, announcing that he was also done with the challenge. With one last huff, Airen dropped the barbell and walked towards the second location. Many of the trainees were shocked at his progress. Even after he finished the first task, Airen still hadn't said a single word and proceeded to the next location, close behind Ilya. Some of them just ignored him, while others claimed that he'd get disqualified anyway, so it wouldn't matter. But, unbeknownst to them, Airen could hear what everyone was saying behind his back as he walked towards the second challenge, which were box jumps. He immediately started on the box jumps, thinking that if they were surprised at his performance so far, they'd be even more so by the end. Like, the dude practically spent his last few years sleeping, so how was he pulling this off? Airen thought that there was something different about his body today, like it was burning, but he had complete control and didn't feel like he was nearing burnout. This made him think that maybe he would if he went faster, but no. He needed to do more. He can do more, faster more. With everything he had, he managed to finish doing box jumps at an alarming speed. Even Ahmed was pretty shocked at this, and, just like that, he announced Airen's completion of the second task. Hearing this, Brett looked scared, but he didn't have enough time to focus on him, since he got distracted by a loud yell from behind. Judith was in overdrive mode, doing her best to finish the first task as the headmaster looked on. Then came stage 3, which is long-distance running. By this time, it was only Ilya leading the run with Airen close behind her while panting. Airen thought to himself that there was something strange, a different feeling, that made him want to beat Ilya in the course. As he sped up to overtake her, another figure crept up fast behind him with a sprint. He was surprised to see that it was Judith. Guess overworked training even managed to overtake Ilya, which surprised Airen. With Judith leading stage 3, she thought to herself that she wouldn't lose. With every step, she looked back on everything she did to get here, even remembering how she got dissed when people heard she applied for Kronos Academy. These malicious voices helped Judith, telling her that she was delusional and that it was too big for her, but she persevered, fueled by her want to get accepted into the academy and pure hard work. She continued thinking to herself that she would never allow anyone to beat her, ever. With a shout, Judith yelled that she wouldn't lose to anyone just in time for her to reach stage 4, which is long-distance swimming. Judith dove with much gusto into the waters and continued swimming with such intensity. And suddenly, she felt it, the stabbing pain of a cramp on her left leg. Why now of all times? But are we even surprised since she's been going at it too hard? Despite the pain, Judith still continued to swim in the water with tears in her eyes. In a flash, she was surprised to see Ilya already overtaking her so easily. As she looked at Ilya's back, who was moving further and further away from her, Judith thought to herself that even though she knew she worked herself too hard, is it really not possible to beat Ilya this time? Judith's other leg starts to cramp too. As she continues to look at Ilya's back, Judith cries in frustration, and she now starts to give in to her exhaustion. She stops paddling and soon finds herself sinking deep into the dark waters of the lake. However, she was broken out of her reverie with a splash when suddenly a hand reached out and pulled her from under the water. With her eyes still closed, Judith is conscious that someone is dragging her out of the water, strong muscles gripping her firmly. She gives out a loud cough as her rescuer continues to swim. Now Judith's eyes slowly open, and she sees that it's Airen who came to her rescue. But what about the evaluations? Coughing with a loud breath, Judith's conscious again, still feeling groggy. She asks Airen what he's doing, annoyed at his effort, as Airen assures her that they're almost at the shore. As soon as they made it, Airen was just asking if she was okay when Karaka came running, telling Airen to leave and continue with the evaluations. That's right, boy. Get your head in the game. As he stood up, Brett just dove in and started the third challenge, followed by 2 others. Feeling the fatigue physically and mentally, the last thing Judith saw was Airen's back as he dove back into the lake, thinking how much of an idiot he is, a life-saving idiot at that. Just like that, the sun has set, and along with it came many tears from many trainees unable to finish the course, feeling depressed over this failure. Karaka approaches one of them, telling him with a smile that he could make it up at the second round of the evaluation. What's more, compared to this one, the second evaluation has lower standards, so you'll be sure to pass as long as you do your best. With renewed hope, the trainees ran toward the sunset. Ahmed approached Karaka, saying there are a lot more successful candidates this year than last year. Karaka echoed the sentiment with a smile. But out of all the trainees this year, the one that stood out the most is the second-to-last candidate. Today's hero, Airen Farreira, the MC announced. If there were people who applauded Airen's choice to save Judith, there were also a couple of numbskulls, conceited brats, other trainees who scoffed at Airen's choice. Oh, and this dude ended up in 5th place, much to the surprise of the rest of Brett's followers. Of course, congratulations are in order. So, Brett, who ranked 2nd place, came forward congratulating Lance, the 5th place finisher in today's evaluations. But Brett already had his eyes on Airen. Even Brett was aware that Airen's performance today was on a whole different level, something he couldn't catch up to. It's like he was on a booster. If he didn't save Judith at the last minute, Brett thought, I'd be in 4th place, and I lost Airen today. Finally, the announcement of the evaluation results. Every trainee gathered in the auditorium as they announced that 35 candidates passed in the first tier, while 78 more passed in the second, which totals 113 trainees. Additionally, Ahmed announced that the top 5 from the first evaluation would be personally rewarded by the head sword master after their individual interviews. But, hold up, the head sword master himself interrupted Ahmed's speech, asking, Ahmed, may you have missed a certain someone? Yeah, that's right. Preliminary trainee number 311, Airen Farreira, also known as our homeboy, was asked to come up to the podium. Everyone was shocked. Well, it just goes to show that no good deed goes unrewarded. The head sword master then went on to say that sometimes a lot of us are too engrossed in chasing those in front of us that we forget to see what's happening around us, but not Airen Farreira. He chose not to be blind, and in doing so, saved the life of fellow trainee, Judith, even if it meant sacrificing the evaluations. With this in mind, the head sword master, along with the other instructors, decided that he was fitting to receive the reward as well, with the auditorium bursting with applause. Back in the head sword master, Ian's office, Brett was the first to be interviewed by the old man. He was already being hard on himself, but the head sword master reminded him that there's no need for self-condemnation. He assessed Brett as someone who's willing to work on himself to get better and can lead those around him. Then came Ilya, who outright asked the head sword master to teach her personally. He advised her not to get too caught up in her obsession and to learn her family's way instead. She wouldn't take no for an answer, so the head sword master ultimately relented and told her he'd teach her in his office. Lastly, there's Airen, the least experienced trainee of all. What would he possibly ask for? He was not at all prepared for Airen's request. The young lad was asking the old man what he needed to do to make up with someone. Did we hear that right? The head sword master, calm, decided to hear what Airen had to say, considering he'd never left his room for more than 10 years, and he's already 15. Of course, he doesn't know how to socialize. Okay, so let's hear him out. It's finally time for an elder to help our boy out. So, Airen spent his time explaining what happened between him and Ilya as the head sword master listened patiently. After sharing the story, Airen shared his thanks. But, like every good teacher, Ian said that he was happy to help and that it was nice to advise on a different topic. The older man didn't expect Ilya to be the source of Airen's worry, but brushed it aside and asked the fledgling swordsman about the main topic, and that's the award. Surely Airen wouldn't settle for a counseling session with the greatest swordmaster at the academy, right? He's not satisfied with just this. So he reminded Airen that he could teach him how to wield the sword in detail and even more invaluable advice. Great deal, right? But Airen, our boy, kind of short-circuited and started babbling about how he has no idea what to ask and that he just started sword training a month ago, and he feels embarrassed at his lack of ideas. The elder man clapped his hands to stop Airen from babbling. What's he so nervous about? A swordsman should be confident. Since Airen couldn't decide for himself, the head sword master decided to give Airen's reward some other time, or teach him when he believes the time has come. Our hero seems to be pleased with this suggestion, so off he went, his merry way. Still, Ian was surprised at Airen's demeanor, and something seemed off. It was like he was not even nervous at all, and like he already has someone guiding him. Thinking of this made Ian remember a similar trainee from years back with remarkable talent and an unpredictable personality. But nah, Airen's way too different from that. Next thing we know, Airen was busy working on his games when he was approached by Judith. Well, she's not surprised that our boy's hard at work, as always, but is it really okay to keep training like that? Especially since they'll be starting sword training tomorrow? But more importantly, what was she doing here? As soon as Airen stood up to ask her a question, Judith quickly interjected, I had to say something. Thank you, Airen. It was no biggie, Airen replied, but apparently for Judith, it meant a lot. She proposed, we should stick together and help each other out from now on, yay? New friend unlocked. It turned out Judith was the type who got comfortable quickly. She already had their activities mapped out for the next day. We'll be having meals together from now on, and we'll work to start training the sword together. She even playfully threatened Airen in the process, smacking him lightly. Still, he thought to himself, this isn't so bad. Just like that, he gained a big sis, even if she was 2 years younger than him. The next day, Judith really did stick to Airen like glue. She was even sharing songs with him, much to the surprise of everyone, especially Brett and his group. While they were weirded out by Judith's closeness, what was stranger for Brett was that Airen and Ilya seemed distant from each other. His nosy self couldn't help but think something must have happened. He didn't have time to wonder much, since Ahmed called their attention. From today onwards, we'll be starting our sword training. For the next 2 hours, the trainees are free to train with the sword as they like, and choose a wooden sword of their liking for practice. Like bees to honey, they went straight for the swords. Judith was swinging hers wildly, happy that it didn't break, and Ahmed couldn't help but think it was the result of their training for the past few months, enhancing and strengthening their stamina. Brett, too, could feel the difference and the lightness from handling the weapon. As everyone chose their weapon, the room suddenly went quiet as all eyes were on Airen. Carefully, he stepped forward and stopped in front of the biggest wooden sword, which looked a lot like Guts' Dragon Slayer. As he picked it up, Airen put all of his focus on the wooden weapon as the head sword master watched silently from the sidelines with utmost focus. He gave the sword one big swing. Obviously, nothing happened, and Brett's group was quick to dismiss him, but Ahmed and Karaka saw it. It may be rough, but Airen's stance was pretty close to the standard. Ilya was speechless, only observing from the sides. But as Brett's henchmen babbled about how Airen was just a show-off, the blue-haired lord started walking towards Airen with his sword drawn. "I challenge you to a duel," Brett said to Airen, much to the immediate shock of everyone in the room. Airen, too, was shocked but only looked to Ian for permission. The old man nodded quickly, and Airen accepted. So the duels on the training grounds parted like the Red Sea, giving the two space. Ahmed blew a fuse, calling out that they could only duel after formal swordsmanship training. Karaka, lost in thought, wondered why Brett would do such a thing. Ahmed was about to continue his litany of reminders when Ian cut him off. "There may be exceptions at times," he said, allowing the duel to take place. But before the two could start, he warned them, "I will intervene if I find it risky." With that, the head sword master stepped away, leaving the two to their devices. As soon as the old man stepped away, Brett lunged forward, dashing straight toward Airen at an alarming speed that caught our hero by surprise. Airen could only stand as Brett delivered the first blow, a slash to his right side. Thankfully, Airen managed to block it. What do you know? Brett can actually walk the talk, he thought. Brett only looked at our hero with piercing eyes. Airen looked at the place where Brett attacked, but Brett didn't let him breathe. He quickly dashed back towards Airen, and this time sent a straight thrust to his head, which Airen barely dodged. A hair's breadth. Now, he was pushed back thanks to Brett's barrage of attacks, who wasn't even giving Airen time to regain his footing. Plus, there was his speed, too, which made it near impossible for Airen to counter. The crowd of trainees continued to look on, most surprised that Airen was able to hold out. On the other hand, Judith was gritting her teeth in anger because she knew what Brett was doing. He was testing Airen with laser focus. Brett gave another swing towards Airen, which the latter blocked. Before Brett stepped back, he thought to himself, for a beginner swordsman, Airen's reflexes ain't bad, but his balance is crap. Not to mention the fact that his posture and movements are pretty sloppy, which made Brett think if Airen's serious about swordsmanship training, he sucks real bad. It's about time to wrap this all up, Brett thought as he made a dash towards Airen, curious to know his power levels. But Airen, bless his reflexes, saw through it and decided to go for the offense, reddening himself to slash Brett in one straight swoop, emitting a powerful aura while doing so. His opponent, seeing him take the stance, was shocked by his movement. So, Brett spun around and stepped to Airen's side before disarming our hero of his weapon, now weaponless. And with Brett's wooden sword on his neck, it was declared that the duel was finished. Everyone applauded, and the blue-haired boy walked away without a word. They concluded today's first sword training by announcing the division of classes starting tomorrow, as stated by Karaka. Ilya, Brett, and Judith, along with a few others, will be part of Class A since they're the top students. He then proceeded to name students that belong to Classes B and C, as Judith expressed support to Airen. But then, Airen's name wasn't called, even in Class C. A frown. Karaka announced that Airen is the lone student in Class F. But were we even surprised at this point? That's all for today. For the next part, make sure to subscribe my channel Fire Recap. And you don't forget to share and like the video. I am out.